you know, Bard Dahl is in not a good shape.
He's read him well. Shipley leading, of course, with the ace. The queen is no good. The 7 is no good. The 5's no good. The 8's no good. And the 3 signals that ace high from Shipley takes Dahl out of this tournament. The Bard from Norway. He goes home with over £33,000, but he would have much rather have won this tournament. Instead, we're left with 3 players, 3 Englishmen. As for Dahl, it's back to the computer.
Well, I've had a few nice wins in online tournaments, like three quite big ones. And in Norway, casinos are not strictly legal, so you can't really play tournaments live there. So it's only when we go abroad that we can. So you have to play online.
Well, Dahl's chips now rest safely with our chip leader, John Shipley, 920,000. John Faulkner, what a story, over 500,000 chips, and he could win this. Robert Cooper then, 3rd place, 310,000 chips. And he must be thinking, I've only got 3,000 more than when I first came to this final table. He hasn't moved far.
And they're both looking at that huge stack of John Shipley's with envy.
And 3-handed, pocket 2s becomes a much stronger hand.
Yeah, it's a strong hand when you're the chip leader. I mean, well, actually any hand's a strong hand when you're chip leader because everybody's frightened to call you.
John Faulkner then won a satellite tournament in PokerStars.tv to get here, and he's now in the final 3.
And he folds. And Cooper folds as well.
And as you say, the advantage of being chip leader. Pair of 2s, not a bad hand at any time, really, but not a great hand. But a big raise, and nobody can go with him. No one can live with that at that stage.
You've got to understand that both Cooper and Faulkner, you know, they're as keen to come second as they are to come third at the moment, you know. And there's a huge money difference between the two.
Well, either way, with the money that's at stake in the European Poker Tour, all 3 of these gentlemen will be taking their wives, or indeed their boyfriends, on a very nice holiday.
Oh, Cooper's gone all in with ace-deuce.
Well, we've seen ace-deuce come through today already. Robert Cooper in on the ace-deuce. 300,000 chips to get rid of there, or indeed the double through. And at this stage, a win with that raise will leave him in a very good position indeed. He's not going to get it, but he steals a blind.
Yeah, and they're worth stealing at this stage.
So our chip leader at the moment, John Shipley from England. He's been at many final tables before, but this would be a significant win for him. It would be massive for his confidence if he could come through. But there's 2 men that will have something to say about that. And again, he's hitting the cards as chip leader. It's hard to play him with ace-6, and he raises again.
Okay, so Faulkner's looking at 4-5. And folds.
You
wisely.
can't really fault Faulkner's game so far at this final table. It really has been textbook. Well, we're going to see some action.
Interesting call from Cooper. Queen 7 of spades.
And straight away, he hits the queen. He hits the 7.
And he checks wisely. See if Shipley can sniff out the trap.
Well, John, if he doesn't, he's going to lose some of those chips that see him sitting as favourite to take this final.
70,000. Oh, he's bet 70,000. I think he's going to get called, don't you?
Do you think Cooper with 2 pairs should be calling him here, or indeed raising all in?
He should go all in.
He's went all in.
He should go all in.
Not slow play them longer. Some people might say he's got the 2 pair. He's going to be leading. He knows he's leading. Try and trap him even further. But
no, the thing is, Shipley could have a flush draw. I mean, get your chips in there and then. There's no point deliberating at this stage.
So what's going on behind those eyes? He's got a massive stack. He could afford to lose it, but ultimately that's what he will be doing here.
Well, that's what's going through his mind at the moment. 239,000, which is a hell of a raise.
And Robert Cooper has actually left the table at the moment.
Well, he doesn't really need to, he doesn't really need to be worried. I don't know why he didn't stay in his seat.
Passed. Cooper then takes a few chips and shows, sitting in 3rd place with 3 players. One hand with a blind so high and a decent flop, and you could be right back in this game.
That's right. The blinds at the moment, the small blind is 10,000, the big blind is 20,000. That's a lot of money. You've got 33,000 in the pot before a card is even dealt.
I have to level with you here, Mr. John Duthie. I haven't been this excited since I met Nadine from Girls Aloud. It really is an up and down final table here. All three players could still take this. It's rare at this stage of any of the European Poker Tour events that we've got all these three players vying for this. No one's dead in the water at the moment.
No, never, ever are you dead in the water. Chip in a chair, you can still win. Okay, ace 9 of spades, Robert Cooper.
A nice hand, three-handed, as we said many times.
A great hand, three-handed, and he's played it right, correctly. That looks ominous.
What bad luck. What bad luck for John Shipley. Not only does he have the misfortune of being chip leader, but he gets dealt the second best pre-flop pocket hand in all of poker.
Okay, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how he plays this hand. And also, let's just watch for a while and see what he says. Okay, he's re-raising.
Cooper, it has to be said, seems to have, I don't want to use the word smug, but quite a knowing grin on his face during hand, certainly when he makes a raise, and it could be wiped off his face here. He'll need to be hitting that ace, or indeed that flush, if he calls.
If he calls. He doesn't look like a man who's going to call to me.
The body language says no.
The body language says definitely no to me, but you never know. Oh.
Well, the stats say 3 times out of 10, he's winning. He might fancy that. He might fancy that at this stage, going up against chip leader. He'll take all the power with him. If he hits that, 3 chances in 10 as the stats show, which he doesn't. He wasn't listening.
Just as well.
You've got to take the chances. You've got to take the chances. We'll leave it there. There are many sites in London, but that's the only important one today. The Grosvenor Victoria Casino for the PokerStars.tv European Poker Tour London leg. And there's our chip leader, John Shipley, 810,000 chips. And who would have thought we'd be still seeing his face? John Faulkner, the fairy tale story, in second place. And not out of it yet, Robert Cooper from England. Back to the action then. 3 players, all English at this, the English leg, of course. Some might say home turf helps. Playing against a lot of players that they may play against week in, week out. Is that a factor?
No, I think it makes a difference. I think the other thing that makes a difference is you've probably got 80% of the field made up of Englishmen.
Well, Shipley's been hitting the cards as chip leader, and he's just hit pocket kings and made a raise on that. Not a massive raise. He may lure somebody in, and he's done just that.
John's had some very, very big hands in this final, and that's going to help him a great deal, obviously. Okay, Cooper's called with 5-7 of hearts.
Let's have a look at the flop. Well, there's no hearts on it whatsoever, but he has hit a middle pin straight, of course. That 6 would help him immensely. But I suppose it depends on the betting post-flop here before the turn. If Shipley makes a big raise, he will find it hard to call it, waiting just on that middle pin 6.
Yeah, okay, so he's checked to Shipley.
I'm just thinking as well, if they're all English and home turf helps, how come you're not there?
One day.
When everyone else is sick. So he's thinking about this. John Shipley, chip leader. He knows he's got a great hand. He'll notice, of course, he's got running cards in the flop. He'll be worried of there being a straight draw, but so he checks that. And the 6 comes out, he hits the straight. Shipley, of course, does have the king of clubs looking ahead to the river. He's also got an overpair. Cooper checks the straight.
Very interesting hand, this. He's probably worried about the 10.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The 2 clubs give Shipley the flush, and he bets that. And Cooper's, even with the low straight, he's probably going to call this. Shipley has hit cards you can only dream of at this final table, but he's also played them very well.
I mean, Cooper's called him here, but to be honest, he shouldn't. I personally don't think he should have done. He said, I have to see you, but he doesn't have to see him. He must think he's got a club.
Well, that's unbelievable. I hear that so many times of professional players. I had to call you to see what you had. Not if you think you're on a bad beat. Look at this, how the hand changes as we go through it. The straight comes on the turn card for Cooper. An overpair for Shipley at that straight, but he hits the flush on the river. Action changed throughout that entire hand.